many of you guys have been to Texas? Texas, right? How many of you been to Lubbock, Texas? We got one Lubbock, Texas. Lubbock, Texas is in the west of Texas. There was a time in my life when I believed that I was going to make it big as a rock star, and so I was a drummer for a band. And my band, we had a gig out in Lubbock, Texas, which is in West Texas. It's in the middle of nowhere. But you know, when you're young, you're starting out, you take every gig that you can, right? So I'm driving out with the bass player, I'm the drummer, we got all our gear in the back, and you have all kinds of conversations when you're on a 7-hour road trip through the middle of West Texas. One of these questions that we came up with, that's just going to stick with you for the rest of the night, is the following. Imagine a town in the middle of West Texas where the only business is a barbecue restaurant, and every member of the town, every inhabitant, works at this barbecue restaurant. How long would this barbecue restaurant survive? I just want you to keep that with you. Another thing that we talked about on this trip was, I said, you know what, Michael, is my bass player's name, Michael, I've never had a flat tire on a road trip before. Foreshadowing, right? So we go play the gig, and it turned out the gig actually did not go very well. We thought we were going to get paid, and I'm 20 years old, I'm sleeping on people's couches, we didn't get paid. I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait to get out of this rinky-dink West Texas town of Lubbock, Texas, right? So we get back on the highway, we're going to head back to Dallas. Everything's done, I didn't get my paycheck, we're all in a bad mood, we're on the highway in Lubbock, Texas, and we're driving, and Michael's driving, and I'm in the passenger seat, and we're driving, we're on the highway, and all of a sudden we feel the rear of the car just hit the ground, just clunk, and dragging along the ground. Oh man, so Michael actually says, well, you said you never had a flat before, and so here we are, we got a flat. We pull over to the side of the road, get out of the car, go back to the rear of the car, and actually the rear wheel of this car is missing. Okay? So we're like, oh my gosh, where is the rear wheel of this car? We look back in the highway that we just came from, and traffic has stopped. In the middle of the highway is a tow truck. The tow truck has stopped, and our wheel is impaled in the windshield of this tow truck. Right? And this, remember, West Texas. And so we're like, oh my gosh, so we run over there and open the door to this tow truck, and it is a West Texas rough and tumble tow truck driver. And we're like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, it's no big deal, I just got a little glass in my face. No big deal. And so we're like, oh my gosh, what has happened? And so he tells us, he's like, well, you guys were driving down the right side of the road, and I see your wheel wiggling a little bit. All of a sudden, your wheel pops out, hits the concrete barrier in the middle of the highway, went straight up in the air, hit the light pole, and came straight down on the windshield. Fortunately, the windshields don't break, they sort of implode, and it had sprayed glass in his face, but he was okay. So everyone was okay. The tow truck driver pulled over to the side, the police came, but one of my questions for the universe, living the entire time of my life, I've always wanted to know what happens if a tow truck breaks down. Right? You're all like, yeah, that's actually a pretty good question. Turns out a bigger tow truck comes together. So a tow truck the size of an 18-wheeler came, took the tow truck with our impaled wheel and drove away. Turns out Michael's dad actually owned a tow truck back in Dallas, so he drove out from Dallas, took their broken car back to Dallas, and I said, F you guys, I'm going to take a plane, so I flew back home and said, I'm done drumming, and I gave up drumming that night.